Hello and welcome to another edition of Conversations of the Heart. As always, it is your boy T Till. It's a very, very, very special guest we have here in the building. We have Coach Trish in the building. Appreciate you taking the time out to having this very much so loaded conversation. If you don't know, you're going to be very familiar with Coach Trish by the end of this conversation. You know, she is a certified life coach. She is a domestic and intimate partner abuse advocate and emotional healing coach. She is an international selling author, empowerment speaker, intentional encourager. So the lots of titles. Very, very much so accomplished. Get social media in a stir with some of her posts and things like that. Gone viral a couple of times. So very, very appreciative to have you here with me to have this particular conversation on relationships and men and women. And we're going to get into that good stuff. But before we do, if you just want to tell the people a little bit about yourself, how you got started, as a life coach and also as a abuse advocate, and an intentional changer. Intentional encourager. Excuse me. And really just let them know just how you got started and where can they find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on this early Sunday morning.
Absolutely.
So, in regards to being like a certified life coach, I found myself being a life coach without even wanting to go that route. Like I would just make posts on social media or people would just tell me their business and they'd be like, "Trish, you should be a life coach." And I'm like, probably not. But the more I went on, the more I realized that's what I was doing anyway. So you don't have to be certified to be a life coach, but I felt better knowing that I could provide proof that I cared enough about it to go through the training to do it correctly. So that's how I got certified. And
Mm.
then in regards to being a domestic abuse or an intimate partner abuse advocate, I've been in abusive relationships. I've seen that growing up. I had one partner tell me that he thought about killing me. He would watch me walk in the house with my son, and he thought about killing me and my son because he didn't want anybody else to have me. So
Wow.
it was that. And then a few years ago, I was in a relationship, and the guy, he was super. I met him at church. He called me queen. He said he loved me. He loved my kids. Like he was this amazing guy until I found out that he was a drunk. And so I told him, like, I don't drink personally, but when he would drink, it was a whole different side of him. So there would be times where I would literally be driving in the car and he would try and like touch my breasts or put his hands between my legs. And I'm like, no, stop. And he'd be like, well, we're in a relationship and we're getting married, so it's mine. And I would always be like, but that's not okay. So
Mm.
it got to a point eventually where I did leave him. And one day he showed up at my house drunk. And my kids were literally arriving back home. They'd gone with someone else. And I did not want them to see him in that state. They'd never seen him drunk before. So I did not want them to see him like that. So I told him, like, come on, get in my car. Let's go for a ride. And so when he got ready to get out, like everything changed. He just started beating me. He started choking me. I was trying to scream for help. He was shoving his hands down my throat, all while he was yelling, "Stupid bitch, I'll kill you." And so I did call the police because it was so important for my kids to know, like, this is not okay. Because he sent me back home looking like that. Before the stuff he would do, I could always hide that or cover it up. And I found out later, my kids knew more than I thought they'd known. So when I got out of that relationship, I decided I wasn't doing that again. So now I advocate for both men and women in abusive situations because I understand on those good days, they're good. And you're like, yeah, like I should stay with them. I love them. But on those bad days,
Mm.
they're always going to outweigh the good days. So I try to be for people who I needed for myself when I was going through that situation. So it's
Wow.
no judgment, no, none of whatever state you're in. I help find resources in that area because it's hard leaving an abusive relationship, especially when you have so much invested in that relationship. So that's how I became an advocate for that. And then the intentional encourager. So I like I'm one of those people, I like to stay in the background. Like, I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want any of that. So when I would go to church, like, they'd be like, Trish, we need you to be the greeter when they would come in. And being the greeter at the church I was going to, like, you got to hug everybody. And I do
Mm,
not like being touched. Like, I
mm,
just, so people would be like, you give the best hugs. And I'm like, I don't know why, because I don't even want you to touch me. But I was obedient, like, in church. So
uh,
I realized there would be times where I would have a conversation with somebody and I would just be encouraging them, letting them know that God has never have done anything concerning you. So this situation is not going to be any different. So I realized
mm,
I was encouraging people and I was doing it intentionally. It wasn't like we were having a conversation and they're like, you ended up encouraging me, and like me being like, well, that wasn't my intent. We were just talking. Like, no, I intentionally encourage people because I know what it's like when you don't want to add to somebody else's already full plate. You don't know who you can vent to. You don't trust anybody. So anybody I speak to, I just try to provide some type of encouragement, even if it's just as simple as, I really love your hoodie. You look so dope in that. Like, you really
mm.
rock it. It's never like me flirting or anything like that. It's just
Right,
because
right.
there have been so many days I've looked in the mirror and I'm like, God, I don't even know what you see in me. So I try to encourage other people because I know what that's like. So I do it intentionally. And then for my books. They are actually on Amazon. One is called My Prayer for You Tonight. And
Mm,
that one, it was in 2017. And I kept finding myself in this loop, not knowing what God needed or wanted from me. And I
mm,
just felt stuck, but I felt like I was supposed to be doing something. So I fasted and I was like, God, you got to tell me what's going on spiritually because I don't know what to do. And God was like,
right.
okay, start a blog. So I started a blog and it took off. It had over 10,000 views
Wow.
within the first 6 months. It was huge. I took it down because the site that I was using, like, you would have to scroll all the way to the bottom to get to the newest post.
Wow.
So at the end of every blog, it would be my prayer for you tonight. And it would just be like 4 lines of a prayer. And so I decided to publish some of my blog and put it in a book. So that's how
Mm,
for You Tonight came about. And then I wrote a 21-day prayer journal for busy people called Hey God, Can We Talk? Because I realized there would be some days I forgot to talk to God because my day started so early and I'm just go, 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 go. And then by the time I get to bed, it's like, okay, God, thank you for keeping me tonight or throughout the day. And then I'm asleep. So I made a prayer journal because they say it takes 21 days to build a habit. So
mm-hmm. Yep.
21 days, like, you do this prayer journal and it just reminds you to get in the habit of just talking to God. And that's also on Amazon.
Mm. Please definitely go out and check out those incredible books on Amazon, please, and support this incredible young Black queen
Thank
as she endeavors to go out there and she champions to change lives and really is an advocate to help people who have been abused.
you. Yeah.
And there is man, there could be somebody I'll talk to you about this offline that I could connect you with also. She's a therapist and also she's a survivor, of sexual abuse, and she has a lot of great resources and I don't know, maybe I could collab and do something
Uh,
together. Um,
yeah. Absolutely.
so gotta get this black empowerment movement.
That,
But I talked about that offline. Um, so speaking of, man, that was loaded and you've been through a lot in your
yeah.
relationships, so what surprised me was after hearing your story, all right, offline, and then seeing some of your posts, you know, I call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
Men don't really have a lot of advocates, right? I think now we're starting to see men speak up about their stories, right? About the things they go through in life, in relationships. And then as soon as we do, we get those who gave them a microphone and this and that and that, right? Or why do you say this? And all types of things, right? So even after all you've been through, um, you still advocate for men as well.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because I'm still a woman who loves men. Like, I feel like
Hmm.
when I gave God my broken pieces, I'm like, okay, God, like you created me, so you know where these pieces go. You know which pieces need to be replaced. You put
Mm,
my heart back together. And when he did that, it allowed me to look at things differently because it would have been so easy for me to be another bitter black woman, for lack of better word.
mm,
I'm not going to do that. Like, I would rather love a million different men and have my heart broken a million different times than to say that I'm giving up on love. And I
mm,
understand because I'm healed, there are a lot of men who are amazing men who put up with stuff from women, especially black women, because they don't want to walk out on us. They love black women and they're trying to give us a chance, but
right.
you are like tearing them down, belittling them. And
Mm,
then like I was having a conversation with my boo the other day, and he was like, the same woman who will disrespect a black man will go into work and respect the white man, but come home and not do that for her significant other. And
mm,
that's huge. Like, I agree. So I feel like, as you stated, there are a lot of women empowerment. I can go on social media, I can find you hundreds in less than an hour. I'll be lucky
mhm,
to find 50 in 2 hours for men. So I
mhm,
feel like y'all do a good job advocating for yourselves, but it's totally different when a woman hears something from another woman. So I advocate for men because I want a healthy man. I'm raising sons. I want them to be healthy men. I have daughters. I want them to see what it's like to be loved by a healthy man. So if I
mm,
can advocate and at least one man is like, okay, like this sister gets it, so I'm going to continue being a good man. I don't know what I can and can't say, but I don't want it to be like a good man is like, okay, these fuck boys get better women than we get as good men. Like, no, if
mm.
that comes across my post and he's like, damn, somebody really cares about us, I'm gonna give love another try. I'm gonna remain a good guy. Then for me, it was worth it. Like, I can't not advocate for men because I want a healthy man. I want a healthy relationship.
Mm.
And sometimes it's just knowing somebody's in your corner that pushes you to keep being that good person.
Now, I want to get this out of the way because upon saying this, now I want it to be clear. You advocate for women as well.
Yeah.
And when you talk like what you just talk like, the immediate response is she's a pygmy. That is almost the immediate response, right?
Somebody
So I
called
kind of want to clear this. I want to clear this up, right? Because I know that might come. You know, I know that might be a thing. I post a clip like this, and people take the clip instead of watching the whole episode, right? And then they go, "Oh, she's a pick me. I hope you got picked." Right? But I wanted to be clear on this end because she is an advocate for women, but she does take the time out to advocate for men too. So
yeah,
I just wanted to put that out there before people go out there and get crazy and run and say
yeah.
ridiculous things.
Thank you. And I advocate for women first. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still I'm naturally going to be biased because I'm a woman,
Mm-hmm.
but I love men too. So why can't I advocate for both?
You know, when I first wanted to become a life coach and started to do things, and um, I spoke to somebody who was really, really popular in this industry, and he was online and he was an influencer, and he told me, and it blew my mind. But he said, if you want to really get like wealthy, like rich, like, and you want your platform to blow, he said, don't talk to men, talk to women, tell them what they want to hear, and they will buy your books. They will come to your events. They will follow you on social media and repost all of your things if you tell them what they want to hear all the time. And he
You're
said, I'm telling you, that is right there the thing that you need to do to get your platform to the next level. And I said, but I was like, but that's not really pushing the culture forward. I'm like, so as a man, I said, you want me to talk down about men. You want me to talk at men at the expense of what? Like, it didn't make sense to me.
yeah.
I mean, it made sense as far as the business side of it, right?
Mm,
Because I see it every day. Like I really see people and I see their businesses and I see their pages blow, right? But they never do what you or I do, where we
Mm-hmm.
talk to both, right? They
Yeah.
talk specifically to women at the expense of men.
Mm-hmm.
And I see how crazy, like it was almost like a prophecy, right?
Yeah.
Like of how all of these guys um are doing this. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, man, like that was the blueprint if you really want to be successful. But for me, um, if it's not about pushing the culture forward on both ends, I don't want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a thing of we want to heal our homes, we want to have healthy homes, we want all of those things, right? But you can't get that by just only talking to one party.
Yeah.
Because I advocate for women too. I advocate for women too. I love women, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, I came from a beautiful black woman, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I have a beautiful black girlfriend right now, right? Um, and I advocate for women. I have friends that are amazing at what they do. They're women. They're bossed up. You know, they're living their best life. Like they're and they want love too. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and when they call me for advice, I give it to them real and raw. I don't
Yeah.
always tell them like, "You're right, bro.
Yeah.
Like you're right. Don't worry about it." He's all because that's not really doing. It. And by me being honest with them, they're like, "Terrence, thank you for being honest with me. I'm tripping. Thank you for being honest with me." They're like, "Yo,
Yeah.
my girlfriend's would have told me, you know, he's always tripping and da, 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 da. He go, and I'm
Yeah.
like, see, like
Yeah.
this is where the honest conversations come in, and that's what drew me to your platform was because I saw you advocating for women and I saw you advocating for men, and I was
Yeah.
like, that's different and
Yeah.
honest. And that's the kind of people that I want to have on my show. So I just wanted to just put that out there and be clear about who you are, your character, because it gets
Yeah.
crazy in the comments. People go, "Oh, she's a pick me," and I hate that subject, the pick me and the simps and all of this. Like, it's just really annoying. Personally for me. But
Yes.
before anybody wanna, come on my platform and say certain things about you, I'm just gonna let y'all know right now that's not
I
the case.
appreciate that. Like, period.
That's it.
Yeah.
So where do you see? So speaking of this, so where do you see like the biggest disconnect between men and women? What is the issue, right? From your lens, because I see a lot of different things every day on social media and all the
Yeah.
arguing and all the bickering and all of these things. And but we all want each other. We all
Mm.
we all want love. We all want, someone to love and I see it in the comments, it's like, Lord, it's me again.
Yeah.
Lord, it's me. What was Sierra's prayer?
Right.
Right,
Oh,
right. I see all of these
yeah.
things, but then I also see the like the turmoil in the comments, right? Going from like I said, the pick me's and the simps, and then people just beefing online about just things 50-50, 100. Like there's like it seems to be a huge disconnect. So from your lens, right, where do you think the biggest disconnect is between men and women?
So I actually think there are two things that are huge. One is communication for sure, because both sides want to be heard, but not both sides are hearing the other. And then another one is a lack of accountability with women, because I feel like men have to take accountability for allowing women. I'm gonna just say us, because I used to be that kind of woman. So when I
Mm,
say us, I just mean women overall.
okay.
So I feel like men have to accept accountability for what they've allowed us to do. Like if we
Mm,
talk to you any kind of way or we treat you any kind of way and y'all still come home to us, y'all still let us do it. Like, and I do understand there are some men who will cheat, who will go out and have a whole other family instead of just leaving women. Okay, but
thanks.
there are a lot of women who do things wrong and men won't call them out because they don't want to hear her mouth, because they don't want to be thinking, because they don't want to have to deal with her key in their car. They don't want to have to deal with all her emotions.
Oh,
Like, no, sis, I need you to take accountability for what you've done. You're not hearing that man when he's speaking to you. So,
mm,
what you're doing is every time he speaks to you, all you're listening for is key words to prove your point.
Mm,
keywords so you can go in on him. Like, no, absolutely not. That's not okay. So I
mm-hmm,
feel like the communication is a huge issue because women don't accept accountability. It's always, you hurt me, you did this, you got me looking stupid, you played me like this, but it's never a, okay, I was wrong. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. What
mm,
I said, I understand I can't take those words back. They hurt, but I'm sorry I came at you like that. I may have
mm,
meant what I said, but I could have said it differently because I care about you. Like, how dare I
mm,
speak to you like
right.
somebody I don't care about? How dare I disrespect you like that? So I feel like if women took more accountability for their actions and
Mm,
their work
mm,
before placing the blame on men, I feel like that would help communication because women naturally, we want to communicate all the time. And sometimes men, y'all will withdraw because you're not being heard, because you don't trust us not to use it against you later. There are a
mm,
million reasons why y'all may not communicate, but I still feel like it starts with us.
mm. Wow. Wow. And I think you hit that, you hit it right there, because I think for me, I think with men, I think there's a lot of issues with ego, pride,
Mm-hmm.
and what and why we don't communicate. So it may start, with you guys, but for us, we really need to take it upon ourselves to really do the work
Mm-hmm.
and to really heal from
Yeah.
whatever traumas that we've had from our past, or just getting out of the things that we were taught. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because we were taught, you don't need to communicate. You need to put the money on the table and go ahead, right? Um, we're living in different times.
Mm-hmm.
Women are making lots of money. They don't need you for your money, bro. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like we need to be able to really accept that, because sometimes, like, if you're not doing well, not I won't say just not doing well, but if you're not making the kind of money that you want to make, a lot of men sabotage their relationships solely because of that. Why? It's
Yeah.
because we also don't have a lot of other skills in our tool belt. It's like
Mm-hmm.
if we're not making the money, it's like I don't know what else I can provide. But if you listen to your woman, it's like, yo, I need emotional intelligence, bro. I need somebody that can understand me, right?
Yeah.
Somebody that I can lean on. I need that. And it's like, but you focused on the money, the money, the money, the money, the money, and that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. But if you're going through a season, if you have other tools in your tool belt, your girl's not gonna leave you.
Yeah.
But it's you that feels inadequate
Yeah.
because you feel like you need to do X, Y, and Z,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you're right. The second thing for me was also accountability. Women a lot of times don't take accountability. They don't like to be wrong. It's like an allergic reaction. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? They don't like to be wrong at all, and that's problematic, right? Because you know what, men do shut down. Like you always told, happy wife, happy life. Your wife is always right. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And men have told me that from the beginning of time. But for me, I say happy spouse, happy house, man. Both of
Yeah.
you are happy, that whole house is gonna be happy. Just
Yeah.
because you happy, don't mean I'm happy,
Yeah.
right? But then what happens, like you just said, you're happy, and then I'm miserable, but then I don't say anything, and I just say, man, I'm not even gonna bother because I don't want to fight. I'm
Yeah.
tired. I got
Yeah.
enough. I got enough to fight in this world. I come home every day. I don't want to fight with you, so I'm not even gonna talk about how I'm depressed. And then you know what happens? And a lot of men's find, and this is the craziest thing. It's not the craziest thing, but it happens so much to where you see, you might go to, in let's just say, an adult establishment,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see husbands, men talking in a place where they're supposed to be dancing.
Yeah.
Ain't no dancing going on. They're
Mm-hmm.
talking
It's a
and
safe.
spending money to talk.
Yeah.
And you see the rings on the finger, and they're just sitting there talking, bro. And I'm like, you know, and I'm out of frequent those places when I was younger, back in the day. And I would see these guys that were married at the time, and I'm like, they're spending money to talk. So I
Mm-hmm.
would pull some of the people that they would talk to, and I'd be like, I would just say, question, do you just want to talk? I don't need to know what you talked about, but that he just paid all the money to just talk, and they go, yeah, yeah, like they just want somebody to talk to and hear their problems and yeah, he's married. And I'm like, and I couldn't wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, that's something that I was like, yo, that's wild.
Mm.
Because one, there's two problems with that. One, maybe you should be in a therapy session. Maybe you
Yeah.
should be a therapist. Black people in therapy. Okay. We're just getting hip to it, but you should probably be talking to a therapist or getting your marriage or taking your wife to family counseling, right? Um, but then two, the lengths that you have to go to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
It it just blew my mind, right? And then being in relationships myself, I was like, oh, I think I understand now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, as I got older, I was like, oh, that's why I was like, oh, so that's why they up in the club paying for conversation. Then I started to understand a lot more, and I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's hard for me because I am a communicator. I love to communicate. So when I don't get that back, for me, sometimes it's like, man, I'm a communicator. I want to be heard, just like you want to be heard, but I think it's also interesting, and you can let me know what you think about this, that a woman who's a communicator always seems to end up with a guy who's not, right? And then a guy who's a communicator seems to do the same thing. He ends up with somebody who just doesn't communicate either.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the men that I know that are communicators, they say, man, I just wish my girl would talk and communicate with me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, it's amazing.
I agree with that. So personally, I used to be like that. Like I wouldn't communicate because I didn't want to rock the boat. Like I just walk on eggshells. You do you, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll just hold it in. I'll talk to
Mm-hmm.
the girl about it, or
Mm-hmm.
folks would be like, "Go pray about it." And sometimes you get tired of praying about it. Like, and I'm not saying don't pray. I'm just saying that sometimes you just want to be able to talk to somebody that is going to literally talk back to you right now, not
mm-hmm.
after you pray about it. Like, and so I used to end up in those situations, but after I healed, I was like, okay, so now it's time for me to start picking different people. So before I
Mm-hmm.
commit to anybody, we gonna have some conversations. Like my
Mm-hmm.
dad now, he's in Charlotte. I promise we speak no less than 2 to 3 hours on the phone every single day.
Mm-hmm.
A few days we speak over 6 hours. He gets off work at 4:30. The first thing he does is call me on his way home and we talk. We never have any less than 60 seconds of silence on the phone because we just talk. But I've created a safe space for him because as a woman, I realize that's my role for him. I know that men, y'all carry a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to be able to come to me like, babe, okay, this is a lot. I need to sit the world down off of my shoulders for a minute and I need you to just be here. And we talk about everything. And what he talks to me about, I don't go telling my homegirl about it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
later if we disagree about something because even when we disagree, like we'll disagree and then we'll laugh like 10 minutes later. And I always
Yep.
said, like, I want to be with somebody that we can disagree, but we still gonna be okay at the end of the night. And I never had that, but I
Mm-hmm.
wanted that. So now that I have that in him, it's like I want to be a better woman. Every day I wake up, like I want to make his life easier because
Right.
gives me what I need from him, which is I need to know what's going on with you. And I understand he's not going to tell me everything. And
Mm-hmm.
there's days where he's like, babe, I'm feeling A, B, C, D, and E. And I'll be like, okay, do you want to talk about it? He'll say no, but we'll talk about it later.
Right.
So later I may bring it up and be like, baby, are you ready to talk about whatever it was? Either he'll talk about it then or he won't. And if he chooses not to talk about it, then I don't bring it up because I've brought it up twice now and you told me
Mm-hmm.
you would tell me when you're ready. If I
Mm-hmm.
keep about it now, I'm nagging. I'm not willing to do that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're ready to talk to me about it, you will, because I
Yes.
understand sometimes you are feeling a certain way and you just don't know how to put it into words. So I
Yo.
give him that space. Like he's still a man. I know y'all won't ever be as emotional as women are. Y'all may
Right.
not communicate 100%, but the healthy men who have a safe space to communicate, they'll communicate at
Man.
least 97 to 98%. Some stuff you just need to talk to your boys about. Some
Mm-hmm.
stuff you don't want to talk to anybody about. You may need to go work on the car and just think it out. But
Mm-hmm.
as long as you know I'm here and I'm not going to use it against you tomorrow if we get into a heated debate, that's what's important to me. So, yeah, I do feel like sometimes the communicator ends up with a non communicator, but I do believe if you take the time to get to know the person before you commit to them, you
Yes.
can save yourself a little frustration down the line.
100%. You are 100% right about that. Now, question. Now, are you in a long distance relationship? Is this a long
Yeah,
distance relationship?
yeah.
I knew we clicked a lot. I knew because for a long, for a while now, I've been in a long distance relationship, and my
Okay.
girlfriend is clear across the country.
Yeah,
It's like an East Coast, West Coast thing.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To where, finally in maybe a month and a half, we'll be finally in the same place,
Yes.
right. But the one thing that you said that is rings true. Our communication is 1,000%. It's different, right? And some people can't do the long distance thing, so it's not for everybody. But what I have learned in this is we had to rely on a level of communication that I never really had to rely on before,
Yeah,
right? And I love to talk. I can talk your ear off, right?
yeah.
And but when you're already in that place with someone physically, it's like sometimes you don't really have to do it. Like you should do it, but
Hmm.
a lot of times it's like, oh, we're on dates, we're having fun, we're going to music or parties or whatever it is your things are, and it's like you may not like communicate as much. It may just be like, yo, meet me so and so, or I'll come pick you up, and then click.
Hmm.
You know, we had to talk. Well, when we first met, we had to talk and
Yeah.
talk and
Hmm.
talk because that's all that we could do.
Yeah.
You know, but that level of communication, what I found was very mentally stimulating. Number
Hmm.
one, and it was very different, and we were able to get out a lot of things quickly.
Yeah.
That I find that when you're in or when you have or in the same city with that person, sometimes can get lost in translation, or it might come out already after you've already been in a relationship, like because it's everything is going good, like the dates are fun, like everything is rolling, everything is smooth, and y'all happy, and y'all in that stage. And it's like a few months later, you're like, wait a minute, I didn't know that. And it's like, oh man, versus with when you're in a long distance relationship, um, that communication has to be stellar.
Yeah, it does.
And if it's not, that's a problem because that person is wherever they are and you are wherever you are. So a lot of things can happen between those lines, and I understand it. That's what people are saying. Yeah, well, this person could be doing XYZ, and I'm like, yeah, but guess what? I've been in relationships where dating a girl that was 15 minutes away from me, 10 minutes away from me, and she was doing XYZ.
Absolutely.
So it don't matter to me at that point, right? As you get older, it's just certain things that just it don't matter, right? But you're absolutely right. Though the level of communication that we have in our relationship right now is so strong, and
Hmm.
it's both of us, right?
Hmm.
And now I have a communicator that's just like me, if not more, maybe even more of a communicator than me, right? Um, in certain aspects. So communication is so important, and I think, like you said, if you really ask those questions, and some of them
Hmm.
might be awkward or tough, but if you just really just get certain things out there, you'll find out a lot about the person,
Yeah, you will.
and you could be like, nah, that's not for me. Or, you might find out, man, this is for me, right?
Yeah.
Um, because I think that when you are in that same place with the person, you get infatuated real fast. It's
Yeah.
like drug, like, person
Yeah.
looking good, y'all just always having fun, and that's what takes over.
Hmm.
And then you end up a few months later with a problem, big
Yeah.
problem. I ain't know she talked to me like that. I didn't know he could talk to me like that, man. Well, I didn't know, like, well, man, like, and then, and then, but by then you're in a relationship. You already told all your friends, and
Yeah.
it's like now you feel like you stuck, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
man, like I gotta see if I can work this out. You know what I mean? But it's, but at that point, promises are made, and you guys are trying to build a future, but then it's really not what you needed,
Yeah.
right? But sometimes I feel like relationships could be like just an addiction, like where people
Yeah.
just, you know what I mean? It's just like, like I need that. Like, you know, I want that. I need her or I need him. Like, oh girl, like this is my, where every next boyfriend is your husband.
Yeah. Oh, oh,
Right. And it's just like, wait, but you don't know, some of his
yeah.
stuff. You don't know his past. You don't know some of his stuff, some of the stuff that he has going on. Um, so it's just amazing how what communication can do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing. And once you heal, like you said, I feel like people can do a long distance relationship.
Heck yeah.
But I feel like when people have not healed, dog, that's not for me, man. Because she could be over here, or he could be over here. I gotta see my person. I gotta be able to drive over there. And then I'm like, man, like you don't gotta do all that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but I found like with me, with going through my healing journey, seeking therapy and counseling and doing certain things, even for me, healing from the wounds I've had, when it comes to relationships and non-relationships, just
Mm-hmm.
life. I found that, you know, at this stage in my life, doing a long distance relationship was perfectly okay. And I was secure and people were like, man, wow, that long of a distance? And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good. And I've
Yeah.
gotten to know the person that I'm with, and I trust this person more than I would anybody that would be in my city.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you had that communication. That's like, even with my babe, he is a talker. So sometimes he be like, okay, babe, my bad. Like, I'm like, nah, I love hearing him talk though. Like,
Mm,
I love
hmm
hearing him tell me about the stuff he knows. I love hearing him tell me about his day. I love just everything he says to me. I love it because I know what it's like
hmm
to have that. So it's huge to me that he trusts me with his secrets. He trusts me with his heart. He trusts me with his
hmm
words because it's a lot of times where you can say something and people will flip it. And then that's an argument because it's like, no, I didn't mean it like that. So if
mm,
he says something, I'd be like, wait, babe, can you reword that for me or break that down for me? Because I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. And for
mm,
him, that's huge because he's not been in relationships with women who were committed to understanding him. Understanding for me is huge because I can be a little weird sometimes, and I need to know that you're committed to understanding me like I am to you. Like that
mm,
matters to me. And it's because I love you, of course I want to understand you. Because I love you, of course, like anytime a man slides in my DM, the first thing I do is take a screenshot and I send it to him.
mm,
If somebody send me a text from my past, I think last week or a week before, I got this long text from this guy that
mm,
I was dating a while ago. I took a screenshot and I sent it to him. And our thing is like, I don't have to tell you any of this. You would never know if I didn't bring it to your attention.
mm,
But I need you to know you can trust me. I need you to know you can trust me because we're so far away. And even when we get together, I need you to know you can still trust me even when we're living under the same roof. That
mm,
is huge to me because
mm,
both of us also value loyalty. So
mhm,
I'm
mhm,
loyal to you because I can trust you. So I think a lot of people, if they would really understand what healing will do for you when it comes
mm,
to dating, I think they
mm.
would be more committed to doing it. But
Right.
healing is hard, man. Like it's
Work. It's work.
something you just wake up one day and you be like, oh yeah, I'm going to heal today. Like, yeah, it may start out like that, but you got to be committed to healing even when you're remembering the stuff that somebody did to you 12 relationships.
Ooh, talk that talk.
I know a lot of serial daters and I did not like I've done dating apps. I even did Facebook dating. So like
Mm,
I don't let my children meet men. I can count on one hand how many men my children have met, and my
right.
oldest daughter will be 18 this year. Like I don't
Oh,
play that.
nice.
So
Mhm,
if like I'm doing a dating app or somebody, I may be talking on the phone. Now, my kids don't believe in personal space, especially not my teenage. So my oldest daughter, she'll walk in the room and she'll be like, "Who you talking to?" And I'll be
Mm,
like, "A friend," or "Don't worry about it." And she'll
mm-hmm.
be like, she asked me actually, she said, "Mom, are you a player?" I said, "Mar, you know the female version of a player is a hoe, right? Like you calling your mama a hoe?" And she like we joke like that. And she was like,
Right,
"No, because you be talking to different guys." And so I had to explain to her because she'd never seen me do that before. When
right.
you're dating, you talk to different people to find out who is worth your time, to find out because I
Mm-hmm.
do intentionally. So we're going to have some conversations on the phone before we're going to go on a
Right.
date. I don't want to waste either of our time. So I understood that serial dating can be an issue. Like, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lady in her 50s who told me the best way to get over an ex is to get under the next. And so I'm like, I don't want to be in my 50s, 60s, and 70s still going relationship to relationship to
Mm-hmm.
relationship because I can't be by myself. And you
Mm-hmm.
touched on briefly, like nobody wants to be alone for the most part. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
dating all these people back to back, at what point do you heal? Because now you're taking baggage, the baggage, the baggage.
Right.
And that's how you end up with so many broken people who won't heal because they're afraid of the pain.
Mm.
I like nobody wants to hurt, nobody wants to replay those painful situations, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel like in the black community we sweep so much under the rug and there's a lot of what goes on in my house stays in my house and
Oh, he's
grow
talking. I see
up
that.
and you keep
Mm.
that mentality. So now you're afraid to go to therapy because it's nobody's business what you dealt with. Or I don't want to go to therapy because what they gonna do for me? I'm just gonna talk. Okay, you just talking to your homegirls or your boys, and they don't have the tools to help you
Mm.
choose better going forward.
Mm.
They're either going to be on your side or they may call you out because I have some friends,
Mm-hmm.
they'll be like, "Nah, Trisha, you tripping." Like, absolutely
Yeah.
not. And I appreciate that. But they're not professionals to give me the tools to
Mm-hmm.
make sure I'm doing better. They can tell me from their experience, sure, but they can't help me two relationships down the line if it comes to that
Mm-hmm.
with tools that will help me choose better than I've chosen in the past.
Correct. And you said a lot there because, man, if you can go back on a lot of my places that I've made talks or speeches on and talks and people interviewed me, I say what you just said all the time. That what
Yeah.
happens in this house stays in this house.
Yeah.
That thing is a plague.
Mm-hmm.
It's a plague,
It
and
is.
it's plagued our community for so many years,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I always say I love the old school, but not everything from the old school is good.
You're right.
Like I love it. I honor it. I honor parents. I've honored my
Yeah.
grandparents, whatever the case is. I honor the old school and what they and how they paved the way. So I always want to make that clear. Some of the stuff that comes from from that has not been healthy.
Yeah.
And a lot of these relationships advice that you take from the old is, I mean, it's okay. But some
Mm-hmm.
of them stay with people just cause. Not
Yeah.
everything was love.
Yep.
Let's get that out the way. Some of them been together 40, 50 years and everybody's celebrating, hooting and hollering, and they sleeping in separate beds.
Yep.
They stay for different reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Times are very different. Um, but I also want to go back to something you said because people will get this misconstrued. And I want to make sure that you and your new, I mean, I'm not new, but you and your man is in the clear
Yeah.
because I hear things and I can hear the responses from
Yeah.
women or people in general. So when you said that when people slide in your DM, you you take a screenshot and send it to your man, right?
Heck yeah.
Now, some women or some people will say, doing too much. All you had to do was just let him know, or not even let him know, or just ignore it. You know, is he controlling? Not controlling? People will say
Mhm.
these things. So I want to be clear and say, yo, that's not what it is. Because you know how it happens on social media. You know what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, I do.
It's
Nah,
horrible.
at all. He doesn't even ask me for that. And like I said, he would never know if I didn't show it to him.
Right.
But him to know he can trust me 100%. I never want to open the door or crack the door or anything for to leave any doubt because there. Okay, so there was one guy, for example, he used to hop in my DMs all the time, and I would be like, "I'm not interested." He would start commenting under my post because I was not interested. So when I told my babe about it, I was like, babe, look at this. And I sent him the screenshot from my DMs. And then like sometimes my posts have so many comments, like
Mm-hmm.
doesn't pay attention to that. Like, so if somebody says something,
Yeah.
and I'll be like, babe, like, what should I say? Because I'm direct. And when I say something, I don't necessarily care about your feelings. And that's not me trying to be an ass or be a jerk. It just is what it is. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm sugarcoating anything. And I think that's a problem is we dance around what we want to say. Like, no, absolutely
Mm-hmm.
not. So I'll send it to him like, okay, babe, this is what I want to say. And sometimes he'll be like, no, babe, you don't have to say all that. Just say A, B, C, D, and E. He's my best friend. So
Love it.
I send those screenshots to him because he's my best friend. There is nothing I don't tell him. If we're in the same house and I get a message,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be like, babe, check that for me. So me sending him a screenshot is no different than me saying, babe, what's that message that? Or me
Mm-hmm.
telling my homegirls, because I'll send a screenshot to my homegirls, like, girl, look at this. What's than me sending it to her and him outside of him being my man. Like he is
Mm-hmm.
my best friend. There is nothing I don't tell him, like at all.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's something confidential that I'm dealing with a client, like that's different. But
Right.
outside of that, if it comes to Trish, it goes to him.
Right. And that's where I wanted people to be clear because people will hear that and be like, oh,
Yeah,
like, you know, say things. And because, you know,
yeah,
it's not the first time I've heard that. And I went under, I saw all the comments about
yeah,
which something that exactly almost of what you just said. Oh, he must be controlling. So I want to make clear my man is not controlling. You
at
know what I'm
all.
saying? It's just sometimes it could just be what healthy relationships looking like.
Yeah, and as
You know
an
what I'm
actor,
saying?
I'm not about to date a controlling man anyway because I know where that control leads. Like, no,
Exactly.
if your man is, I mean, stuff, different stuff works for different people.
Yes.
All I know is my best friend, she knows everything about me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be the first person I call if something happens. My man should be my best friend before anybody. And because he is,
Fact.
babe, look at this. And a lot of times we
Mm-hmm.
laugh about it, we joke about it, because he'll be like, everybody want a piece of Miss Trish. Or like when the old head pop in my like, hey, Miss Lady. So we joke
Mm-hmm.
about like, hey, Miss Lady. And then we have a different kind of relationship than either of us have ever had before. So
That's beautiful.
he has a lot of women who be at him. So every once in a while, I'll send him a text because he is a self motivation coach. So he gets
Mm.
a lot of clients, and I'll send him a text like, hey, self motivation coach, I got your number from a friend. I'm just wondering what's up. Like we joke like that all the
Keep it
time.
spicy.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, all I'm saying is he's not controlling, but he's my best friend. So
I love it.
I'm
I
a tell.
love it. I love all of it. So when it comes to accountability, men and women,
Mhm.
do you think a lot of it is a lack of self-awareness about yourself?
Yes. I think it's a lack of self awareness. And I think sometimes um, people view themselves differently than they should. Like,
Ooh.
we have a video that I'm going to post about. I know this is going to ruffle some feathers. Like,
Uh-oh. I'm looking forward to it.
you, sis, you might be single because you're not the woman you think you are. Like so many women feel like they deserve a six-figure man and he's got to cater to me, he got to suck my toes, he got to do my laundry. But what are you doing? Like you're not even willing to bring chairs to the table you expect to eat at that he built. Like,
Mm.
yeah, I do believe it's absolutely a lack of self-awareness because you don't even know who you are. You think you're one person, but you're not that person. Like I think it's a lack of self-awareness and sometimes people just their ego like allows them to think that they deserve more than they do, or to think that they're better than they are. And it's not to
Mm-hmm.
say people can't change. It's not to say
Mm-hmm.
that people don't deserve good significant others. It's
Right.
just to say if you ain't put the work in, you can't be requesting all that.
And man, you was just spitting, man. That was a bar. Um, because I've always said, like, one, people always will think highly of themselves,
Uh,
and that's okay. But
mm-hmm.
if somebody is like, if one of my friends sees one of my friends and it's like, yo, T, like, look that up or whatever. The one thing I'm gonna always say is, look, they're a great friend to me, a great friend to me, right? But don't know how they truly are in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So do with that what you will. They could be an amazing person and be in a relationship, or they could be an amazing friend, honestly, and not really be great at a romantic relationship.
Yep.
Some people struggle in different areas. They could be yo, he or she down for me, that's my best friend, like, and they could be that person. But then in relationships, they're a different person. They don't know how to deal with emotions. They don't know how to deal with just communicate. So not everybody is who you think they are when it comes to
Right.
relationships, and that's why it's like we kind of give our people like on the pedestal, like, yo, nah, I know he would be this, and I know he would be that, or I know they, and it's like, nah, you don't know.
Yeah.
You really don't know. Like, you know the friend part, right? And my homegirls do all the time with their girlfriends. Oh, I know she good. Oh, nah, she my bad. She good.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't know a woman can be a terrorist in a relationship, and just
Yeah.
because she's yo ride or die, you know what I'm saying, which is great for you as a friend, but it don't mean that this person is great in relationships. And I say that
Yeah.
for both men and women.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you're absolutely right. Some people aren't who they think they are,
Mm-hmm.
and on both sides, and it's just everybody thinks like, yo, like, I am this amazing catch and I don't need to do any work. Um, but it's always work, because if you have to put in relationships, it's always work. You're working
Mm-hmm.
on a relationship. You're honing your skills in your relationship. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's hard work, but it's work, right?
Yeah.
So what does that mean for yourself? You've got to work on yourself, just like you're working on the relationship, right? And so some people always feel like, oh, like, I don't really need to do work. I'm great. And some people feel like their accolades make them good partners,
Mm.
right? Like, oh, I make 6 figures, 7 figures, I got money, cause, or whatever it is, I got degrees, and it's like, that's personal accolades, and those things should be respected and honored for yourself,
Yeah.
right? And that's great. But when it comes to people, do you know how to treat your significant other? Do you know how to
Right.
talk to your significant other? I know a lot of people that make a lot of money that are not good people,
Mm-hmm.
right? They don't know how to treat people, they don't know how to talk to you. They'll talk to you crazy, right?
Yeah.
They're aggressive with you,
Yeah.
right? Um, and then people with degrees, sometimes people with degrees is like, that's all I need, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with having degrees. Those are all great things to have.
Yeah.
Um, but when it comes to the relationship piece, do you have emotional intelligence? Because you can't go back to your textbook. You can't go back to your master's degree, right? And say, okay, well, let me see what it emotional intelligence. No, it's not there. Do you have it?
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, how do you get it?
Yeah.
Right? Because people don't understand emotional intelligence. It's something that, to me personally, in a relationship, is priceless.
Mm-hmm.
Can't put a price tag on that. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care how many degrees you got, how many cars you have. Emotional intelligence plays such a vital role in life,
It does.
because people go through a lot of things in life, tragedies, just things that are just downright just hard to get through.
Mm-hmm.
And they need that safe space, like you said. Like I'm in a relationship now that I've never had a safe space. Like I've never had a safe space until I got into this relationship. I always provided one. I
Mm-hmm.
never got it. So,
Yeah.
so this is a first for me. And you know, everybody goes through something, goes through a lot of just different things in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, just how you know that it's a priceless feeling when you have that,
It
because
is.
life gets disgusting.
Yep.
It gets hard. People, hundreds of thousands of people have gotten laid off their jobs in corporate America. Hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
thousands. And you see layoffs every day. Meta just laid off another 10,000 people, I think, on Friday or Thursday of last week. Right? These are real life situations. People have children, people have, families, husbands, wives, and they're getting laid off left and right,
Mm-hmm.
not getting hired. Like that's traumatic. We just went through a whole pandemic. That's trauma,
Yeah.
right? We see our own people getting shot in the street. That's
Yep.
trauma, right? So we got a lot of things that's going against this and that, and we under our comments arguing about 150-50. Lack of emotional intelligence
Yeah.
or this imaginary table. What you bring to the table?
Yep.
It's imaginary. I don't know, right? Um, so it's just like we're all going through a lot of just different things in life, and it's just to have that emotional intelligence to go home or to call somebody and be like, yo, I trust you enough to sit with this. The
Yeah.
ugly, the
Yep.
ugliness. It's easy to sit with pretty.
Mm-hmm.
When you're going on dates, Google Gaga, like the talk. You know what I mean? Like it's just that's beautiful to go. I mean, and that's a part of it, and that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna keep that same energy when it gets ugly?
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do. And for us, it's like we don't want to bleed on our partners. We don't always want to emotionally dump on somebody. So it's
Mm-hmm.
always good to check to see if they have the capacity to do so.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
honestly, that's another thing people don't talk about.
Yep.
Capacity,
Heck yeah.
right? Do I have the capacity to be in a relationship? I know I want one. Do I have the capacity to maintain it, to keep it?
Mm-hmm. That part.
Right? People want $1 million, but do you have the mindset to keep it? Do you have the capacity to deal with the things that come with being a
Yeah.
millionaire? Right? And this might be unpopular. A lot of people want children.
Mm-hmm.
Understandably so. I get it. Do you have the capacity to deal with this?
Yep.
This beautiful human being that it is a lot of responsibility,
Yeah.
right? Do you have that capacity? I know everybody wants it. Do you have the capacity to deal with it in your current circumstance? Right? In your current circumstance, do you have that capacity to say, hey, I can handle this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Look at because you got to look at yourself. The problem is when you look at capacity, we don't like to admit that we can't handle things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I was honest with myself in my 20s. I said, I can't handle that.
Mm-hmm.
I know it. I know it. I said, I can't handle at this
Yeah.
moment. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do it because then the child suffers,
Mm, yeah.
right? And people want to get married, have to. You have to be able to do both. You have to be able to be a spouse and right a parent.
Yep.
But then it's like, oh, I can only handle one. Now you're now you're just a parent neglecting your marriage, right?
Yeah.
So it's just being honest about us, who we are. Do you have the capacity to be emotionally intelligent, or do you just have too much going on? And these are conversations that if you went to therapy, maybe you would have those answers,
Absolutely.
right? If you were honestly open, honest with yourself, you might come up with those answers yourself too.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, so earlier when we first started this conversation, I know you went through a lot. Unfortunately, you unfortunately went through trauma and
Mm-hmm.
abuse in relationships. Um, how did you persevere through those things? Because look, there could be somebody watching right now. or that is going to watch this episode that has gone through abuse
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know how to get out. Is there any tools that you could provide or any advice? And I know everybody's situation is different, so I want to be clear about that,
Yeah.
of course. But what you say as somebody who has survived certain things could help somebody's life and impact somebody's life in a very positive way. Um, is there any is there any tips or something that you could say, you know, if somebody's listening out there that's going through an abusive situation, anything that you could say to that person of how they could get out, right? I know it's hard to get out of abusive situations, right? Because
Yeah.
it's mental, it's
Yeah.
emotional and physical,
Yeah.
all wrapped into one, right?
Yeah.
Um, you know, is there anything that any kind of guidance or you know, and we know that you know you're not you know licensed therapist, so we understand those things. But as
Yeah.
somebody who has been or has gone through, and you have persevered and you have come out on the other side of it, thank God, um, a better person, right? A healthier person, ironically. Um, what would you say?
So honestly, growing up, I was molested by my uncle. And when I finally, like, there were a few times that I'm pretty sure my mom knew what was going on. But I remember
Wow.
the day I told her, I remember like it happened 2 minutes ago. My uncle had done something to me, and I ran down the stairs and I told my mom. Her exact words were, "It's your fault because you shouldn't have been in his room."
Oh.
So I had to carry that. Then my mom died when I was 10. She died when I was 10.
Mm.
And then my dad remarried less than a year later. My dad would take me with him to cheat on my mom. So growing up, I was carrying all this stuff, just carrying it.
Wow.
So when I got into abusive relationships, there was one relationship I was in, and his mother told me, she saw me crying. She was like, "Don't worry, eventually you just get used to it." And so like that
Wow.
stuff. So when I'm in these relationships, like I was in my 30s before I realized I had daddy issues. I didn't think I could have daddy issues because I knew who my father was. He was
Right.
around. I thought daddy issues were for women who didn't know their dad and stuff like that. So I had to get to a place of, okay, all of this stuff happened to me. I can't leave for my kids. I have to leave for myself.
Mm.
So although you have your kids, you can think about how you leaving would benefit your kids, but
Mm.
until you decide that you're ready to leave for you, until your tired gets tired, you're not going to be ready to leave, because if you do it for the kids, then
Mm.
on the nights where you're lonely or on the nights where you don't have the extra money that you had when you were with him, you're
Mm.
going to go back because you didn't leave for yourself. So the advice I have is, a lot of times the abuse we accept is because of trauma we endured when we were younger that we didn't address. So
Mm.
my advice is to do what you can to address the trauma. I know sometimes the abuse is so bad or the partner is so bad you cannot go to therapy because they're not going to allow it.
Mm.
So for me, God is huge for me. So I had to develop a relationship with God on those nights where I'm crying myself to sleep, hoping nobody heard it, or the days I would cry and then have to fix my face so my partner wouldn't know I was crying, because that would be an
Mm.
issue.
Mm.
So the advice I have, one is, I understand everybody doesn't believe in God, and I'm not pushing my beliefs off on you, but
Mm.
I do recommend giving God a try, because if you give God a try, sometimes that puts stuff into perspective. I always say sometimes your vision is the clearest when your eyes are the cloudiest. So, although
Mm.
I'm crying and it hurts, like God knows it hurts, because when y'all got together, this partner didn't start out as being abusive. You got
Mm.
to get to a place of, okay, today I'm going to leave regardless of how things turn around, because when you leave, You may be broke. When you leave, you may be in a shelter. When you
Mm,
leave, I remember calling a shelter and they were like, I need you to understand when you come here, nobody can know where you are.
mm,
So understand that when you leave, there is going to be a period of isolation, of feeling alone, of feeling lonely, of wondering if you made the right decision because
well,
now you have nobody. So just make
mm,
the decision for you to decide that some people don't get out of these relationships. Like I used to watch Lifetime movies of these women being beaten, and
mm,
I'm screaming like, "Girl, if you don't just leave."
mm.
I became the woman in the Lifetime movie, and
Wow.
so you gotta understand, like, yeah, it's gonna hurt. Yeah, you're going to be frustrated. Yeah, people may not understand. Yeah, you may get to a place of, damn, I should have left 2 years ago. Okay. But you
Mm,
leave today. Like, so
mm,
when you make that decision, you got to stand on it regardless of how hard it gets, regardless of how lonely it gets, regardless of how swollen your face becomes because your tears have become intimate partners with your face, your cheek. Like,
mm,
you got to go. And I need you to know, like, stand on it. It
mm.
gets easier a little every day. It's hard. It's really hard. It's really hard. It's really hard. It's really
Yeah.
hard. But it gets a little easier every day to understand that you left because your life literally depended on it. Because when my ex tried to kill me, I didn't see that coming when he used to put his hands on me prior to that. I just felt like if I was a better partner, if I did my part a little better, then maybe he wouldn't be the way he was until the night he decided that if he couldn't have me, nobody could have me. So I just
Wow.
need you to know, like, you just gotta go. You gotta go. You gotta go. I don't care if you have to tell absolutely nobody. Just remind yourself that sometimes people don't get the chance to go. They end up in a box. They end up with their
Mm,
partner throwing acid in their faces. They end up with them trying to burn them and do all this crazy stuff. Like, the best advice I can give is just to think about the person you want to be when
mm-hmm.
you're not this broken person that you are right now.
Wow. Um, well said. I appreciate all of one vulnerability, and willingness to share your story. I mean, because I didn't know the other piece, about your uncle and things like that, and
Yeah.
that's very traumatic for a child. Very traumatic for a child to deal with. And not having the support, of your mother, God rest her soul. That's that is another trauma. Um,
Mhm.
in and of itself, to not have the support, right?
Mhm.
And it's funny because you went right into it, and I was going to ask this question, because you're a very faithful person, and you have faith in God, and that's been your rock. And some people would say, "Man, how did you have faith in God through all of this stuff? If God loved you, like you wouldn't have went through it. Like so much of it. Well, so much of it, right?
Mhm.
Because we all know, as Christians, as I'm a Christian too, that that you will go through trials and tribulations
Mhm.
and things, and but sometimes like when it's just thing after thing after thing, and what you've endured is nothing short of heavy, um,
Yeah.
to say the very least, right? So how did you, and this could help somebody as well. How did you keep that faith? How did you keep that going? Because sometimes when things keep happening like this heavy,
Yeah.
sometimes, man, like you it's like a fight. Like you just get hit a few times and you're like, man, I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm woozy, I'm weak, I'm I'm fading in the
Yeah.
fight. You know what I'm saying? I'm in the corner breathing heavy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, how did you have the ability to say, even in this, God, I trust you?
So that was hard. Like, when I grew up in church, man. Like,
Me too.
revival, we in church. If it's a shut in, we in church. Bible
Mm,
study, we in church. Choir rehearsal,
mm,
church,
mm,
and still got to get up at 5 the next morning to get to school. Like,
mm-hmm,
so when I was like, all right, when I'm 18, like, I'm done with God. I can't be made to
mm-hmm,
go to church. Like,
mm-hmm,
God, if I die and go to hell, then it is what it is, because
mm,
I saw like I was surrounded by people who had all of these roles in church and who were connected by the pastor.
we.
They were worse than the sinners they be judging. So I was like, I'd rather go to hell than to be associated with that. Or it was like, God, I don't even understand how. Okay, so there was one point when I was a teenager and I decided I didn't want to deal with men. I was going to be a lesbian.
Mm,
And so when my stepmom and my dad found out, like, obviously how they looked to the church mattered. So they weren't having that. And the pastor
mhm,
was like, God said, if you don't stop messing with women, you're going to die and go to hell with AIDS before he would allow you to dishonor your mom's name. And so, like,
mm,
growing up in church, I believed that believing in God was fire insurance, basically. Like, believing in God meant I'm not going to hell. So I might as well. But when I was 18, I was like, all this stuff I've endured, everything I'm going through,
mm,
especially with people in the church, like,
mm,
nah, I'm good on that. So I ran from God for a long time.
mhm,
People still kept coming to me. Like, I like it. I like to say it's like Jonah in the Bible, how like he was running
mm,
from God and God sent
mhm,
that big fish. Like, one way or the other, like,
mhm,
when there's a calling on your life, you gonna run, but you
mhm,
still end up doing what you're supposed to do. So eventually, after I kept dealing with stuff, I'm like, okay, what's gonna hurt going back to God? So I went back to God and I realized that God gives us free will. And although like he can protect you and he can cover you, if he gives us free will, I can't stop what you're going to do to me. But now I
mm,
understand, because of my relationship with God, that the stuff I went through, yes, it was painful. Yes, it was traumatic. But the amount of people I helped because of my transparency with my past,
mm,
because of what I went through, I can be there for somebody in a way that I didn't have anybody else. So it was hard going back to God, but God's hands were the only ones big enough who could hold everything I was going through. God was the
mm,
only one who understood the parts of me that I pushed down so deeply because I was tired of people hurting me. So
mm,
for me, it was easier to become cold. But I also realized that closure is a myth. A lot of people are like, I got to reach out to them because I need closure to move on. Like,
yes.
no, I had to learn to forgive the people who'd hurt me and give them to God too. So I'm never going to say it's easy, because I always say the blood is free, because I believe in like the blood of Jesus. So the
Mhm,
blood is free, but the walk is going to cost you. So when you're with God, like, it does not mean you're going to be problem free. Everything is going to be smooth sailing. No, it just means I have somebody bigger than myself to take my problems to. So it's hard sometimes living for God, especially when I want to spaz out and let people know, like, yeah, you got the right way. And I feel like that so many times on those comments,
Ooh-wee.
posts, I'd be like,
Mhm,
okay, like
mhm,
last somebody came at me, and that day it was like I heard God clear as day say, don't respond. But I was like, nah, I'm tired of this. I let her have it. And after I let her have it, like, I'm not gonna lie, a piece of me felt good, but another part was like, all that growth you've gone through, now you gotta.
right, right,
So like, living for God is not easy, especially when
right.
you're going through stuff, especially when you've experienced trauma,
Mm,
especially when you're
mm,
trying to heal. That's the hardest time to walk with God.
mm, mm,
Worth it, because I understand there is still a protection on my life with God that I wouldn't have had if I wasn't walking with Him. So it's not easy, but for me, it
mhm.
makes sense to walk with God, because I
And
mean, what's the worst that I can lose by walking with?
mhm.
Like,
And I'm
nothing.
glad that, and I'm glad that you said that because one, uh, sometimes people feel like, especially in the Christian world, some people feel like walking with God is like a straight line in a sense of like you don't stray, you don't get mad at God, you don't do none of that. Like everything is like if you don't do this, then if it's not like this, then you going to like like, and it's like It's
Yeah.
not real. Like when you go through real trauma and real things in life, sometimes you stray, sometimes you get mad at God. And that
Mm-hmm.
and that's a fact.
Yep.
And despite what people might say to try to shame you about that, that's real because
Yeah.
it's raw emotions. Like it's a relationship. So if you want to have a relationship with God, it's like, you know, tell me you can't get mad at God. It's false.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you're in a relationship with your man or it could be your friend, you never got mad with your friends. You never
Yeah.
got mad with your spouse. And you
Yeah.
love your spouse and you love your friends and even
Yeah.
your family, right? You gonna tell me you've never gotten into anything. You've never said, man, I ain't talking to him for like 30 days or 60 days. And guess what? You spin the block, and next thing you know, 2 months later, you right back with him, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just sometimes the nature of relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, you know, and that, you know, once you've walked with God and you don't stray too far.
Mm-hmm.
But there are ups and downs in any relationship, and I believe including God. You know, some people strayed away for 10 years. The next
Yeah.
thing you know, come back, they pastors and or deaconesses or prophetesses or whatever it is they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes they find their way back. You know, they say when you raise your kid up as a child and train them up, right?
Yeah.
It's like they never stray, right?
Yeah.
And I grew up just like you in the church, and in every type of service you could possibly think of,
Mm-hmm.
and still have to go to school early
Yep.
Monday morning,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I definitely appreciate all of the transparency that you've provided during this conversation. Of course,
Yeah.
I would love to have a part two, because I think people will be blessed by this, and
Yeah.
people can relate to it. Um, and that's why I built this platform is to hear voices like yourself, to share the story, to have conversation, honest and open conversation, rather
Yeah.
unscripted conversations
Yeah.
about life and about what we go through, and as especially as Black and brown people, right?
Yeah.
And how do we heal our relationships? How do we move forward? And you are someone who has absolutely, you've moved forward, you have persevered, you have gone through um a lot, and
Yeah.
you've come out on the other side a healed person,
Mhm.
right? And I just want to say I salute you, for all the work that you've done and all the work that you are doing,
Yeah.
um, helping a lot of people. And please, again, you actually said a bar, and I wanted to point it out. You said on the bar, it was, I believe you said about being clear. You said you are your most clear, I think, when your eyes are cloudy,
Yeah. Your vision is the
your
clear.
vision is
Yeah.
clear.
Cloudy is. Yep.
That was a bar. I just
Yeah.
wanted to like that one popped out at me, and I was like, "Oh, that was a bar." But the conversation was flowing, so I
Thank
didn't stop to
you.
say it. But
Yeah.
that
Thank
right there was a bar, and I hope people can appreciate that, because it has a lot of significance to it.
Yeah.
So one final time, please tell the people where they can pick up your books and tell them how they can contact you to book your services. Please book her services, buy her books, please. She is amazing. As you can see, has taken the time out here to really share her story, drop some gems, bars, and gave out some great advice. And we appreciate that here on Conversations of the Heart. But please, let people know where they can find you, give them your social media platforms, and where they can get your books.
Yeah. Okay. Can I just say one thing first?
Absolutely.
So I know you said like you view like God, the relationship with God, kind of like a relationship. I think another way to look at it is like God is a parent. So
Mm-hmm.
as a parent, like, your kids sometimes are going to do their own things. So God is a parent too. Like he understands that sometimes we're going to do our own things, but he's not going to love you any less. So to anybody out there who is like, it's been a minute since I've talked to God, like
Mm-hmm.
he's not going to want to hear from me, or I messed up last night. Like, no, absolutely not. When Adam and Eve messed up in the garden, God still went looking for them. Like God is going to love you regardless. So do not listen to those people or the devil or however you want to see it when they're like, God is mad at you, you can't talk to him, or God is not going to want to deal with you, or like none of that. I want you to know that God is still going to love you anyway. God still wants to hear from you. God still longs to have a relationship with you. Because and do not listen to those people who say don't question God, because I tell God all the time, I'm never going to ask you why not me. I know a lot of deep Christians who be like, don't ask God why me, asking why not me. No, absolutely.
Mm,
I'm never going to ask that, because I don't want to go through the stuff that I've gone through. I understand that the stuff I go through helps other people. And so I can help them from a place of experience as opposed
mm,
to than I've heard about. So if you want a relationship with God and it's been a minute, like, just talk to him. You don't have to be super deep and spiritual, like, oh, Heavenly Father. Like, no.
mm.
I have conversations with God like I talk to regular people. Like, God is me. When somebody does something to me, I'll be like, God, you know me, and you know, like, I wanted to let them have it. So when I get to heaven, I need you to honor that, because, like, talk to God like who you
Hmm.
are, because he
Right.
knows who you are. Go to him not as an imposter. Just don't worry about them people who say don't ask God questions. You can be mad at God, because there are so many times where I'm like, God, I'm so mad at you. God, I don't understand why you would
Mm,
allow me to happen. Or God, that was messed up that you really let that happen to me.
mm.
Then be open to his response, because he gonna respond. So I just want to put that out there.
Yes.
But
Appreciate that one. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. I can be found on TikTok and Instagram under Life Coach Latricia Renee, and that's LaTrisharhnee, and on Facebook under Life Coach Trish. Or you can send me an email, Miss Trish Renee at Gmail. My books are on Amazon, and again, it's called My Prayer for You Tonight and Hey God, Can We Talk, which is a prayer journal, a 21-day prayer journal for busy people, is what it says.
Mm.
Or you can order a book from me directly. If it comes from me directly, I do include additional knickknacks. That's what the old people used to say, but I don't know what else to call it. Just some encouragement. I send additional things like that. And what else did you want me to say?
No, no. I just want you to just plug your stuff, plug your merchandise, and where people can find you and book your services.
Yeah,
You know,
if you send me a DM, you send me a message, I do respond. Don't forget, if you come at me anyway other than unprofessional, I'm gonna send it to my baby. So keep that in mind. But
keep it
yeah, and I'm
tight. Keep it
super
tight.
goofy.
Be
I
respectful.
love to laugh. Like, you don't
Hmm.
have to. If you do hit me up, at least be courteous enough to say, "Hey," before you go into whatever it is you want. But I'm super.
Hmm.
I love to laugh. I'm sure you can find my videos on social media somewhere. Feel free to comment. I do try to comment back to absolutely everybody. Just watch how you come at me, because some days I'm Peter and some days I'm still trying to be like Jesus. So
That is dope. Definitely please come at her correctly. Please.
yes,
Please. You know what I'm saying? She's try Jesus, not her. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
definitely appreciate you. This will be out on all audio podcast platforms, YouTube. There will be clips on TikTok and IG. Follow me at T Till Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I'm all over the place. Cop the merch too. It's pretty good. You know what I mean? But yeah, yo, it's your boy T Till. See you next episode. Appreciate you, Coach Trish.
You.